story for create project workflow. Users can create developer tasks within a user story. All right, so tasks have user-determined names and tasks have user-determined completion statuses, but they do not have descriptions. Okay, so we are switching out descriptions for statuses. So add list of developer tasks to the user story drop-down body. And then we have a few other things. Add a task drop-down. Sorry, took a drink of Diet Coke. Okay, we are working on the front end here first, and then we're working on the back end. Okay. So I create this drop down, and I see my description, which is good because that's supposed to be the description, but then you can see that we actually have developer tasks here. Okay, so that is what we're going to work on next. So we're still on the feature modal. All right, and then we are within the user story details accordion. Okay, and you can see that then we will have a list of developer tasks. Okay, so this is going to be an item in the accordion item here. Okay, and then we are going to have these. So I think these are actually going to go in the panel then, because these aren't going to be buttons. You can't click on them. So we're going to have that in the panel. So I'm going to put this in a box instead. And then I am going to make my tasks boxes here. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to start with some sample data. So I'm going to start with const sample dev tasks, and it's going to be an array and with an object. So you can see we're going to have name, and our name is going to be developer task 1. And then we are going to have status, which is going to start out as to do. All right, and then we are going to add a few more of those, and let's count up. Okay, perfect. I'm going to leave them all as to do right now. Okay, and so then here we are going to want to map over that. So we're going to map over sample dev task.map. We're going to have a task, and we are going to return a box, and in the box we are going to have some text, and that is going to have the task.name. And then within that, we are also going to have a button, which is going to have task.status. All right, and then let's import button. So then this is going to be display flex, and then I'm going to say justify content. We're going to say space between. All right, let's take a look. All right, that looks pretty good. So we are going to do border is 1 pixel. All right, and then let's do align items center. All right, looks pretty good. So it looks like there's some sort of like padding that we're looking at in the panel. So I'm going to look at the design, and I'm going to try to get rid of that then. All right, perfect, that did the job. All right, and it looks like we don't want the whole border around. Let's just try border top. and that looks great. Okay, so now we want to make the description a little bit bigger. So I'm going to say padding top 4. Okay, let's do padding bottom is going to be 10. All right, that looks good. Let's just do padding X is equal to 5. Nope. What if we just do padding? Okay, that looks good, but let me look at what the padding is up here. It's 4. Let's see if we can match that. All right, that looks good. And then this padding is going to be equal to try 4 here as well. All right, that looks okay. It looks a little bit too big in my opinion though, but is that gonna match? So we wanna match this top thing up here. And I think it's because the button is too big. So let's try less. So let's do padding X. 4. Let's try padding Y. Let's try 2. All right, that looks good to me. Okay, so we have all of those, developer task, and then we have this button here. Okay, that looks good. Okay. Yep, and then I think we want to add more to the padding bottom for the description. If I add 4 here, will it give me an extra 4? No. So padding X is 4, padding top is 4, padding bottom is, let's do 8. All right, I'm gonna just leave it at padding 4 and then we will worry about it later. Sometimes you can get too in the weeds with the, what's it called, the design of things, and we might want to change the background color or something. All right, cool, so we have all of our tasks. We added list of developer tasks to use the drop-down body. Okay, create and add a task drop-down component. Okay, so we want to, at the bottom of there, have add a task. All right, we can do that. So I am going to take this create user story accordion and I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to make a folder for tasks and I'm going to paste it in there. And then I'm going to rename it, create developer. I'm just going to call it create task accordion. And then let's go look at our wireframe. It's going to just have a task name. Okay. So create task accordion. There's going to be no description. All right. So we don't need an on-change description. We aren't going to need to send a description to the back. We won't need to set the description here. And this is going to change to your task has been this is going to change to your developer task. Okay. So far, so good. Spelled task wrong. Let's go ahead and make this task instead as well. All right. And then we want to say create task. don't need the description, so we can take that away. And we are going to put developer task name is required. And then let's write task name. Looks good. And then we're going to say add a task. All right, let's go and take a look now. Let's go back to where we were at, which was here. So we're going to map over our things, and then we are going to do create task accordion. We are missing imports, so let's go ahead and put those in. Let's actually look at what we need to. Okay, so we're not using user stories, and we also don't need to set user stories, so we don't need those. So we can take these out of here too. We don't need to do this. And we don't need to worry about that right now. So project ID, feature ID, and then let's do, we will need user story ID. Okay. And we would want to pass that to the back end. This would be create task. All right. So we don't need user stories or set user stories. All right, we do need feature ID, project ID, and user story ID. We're just gonna use fake values for that for now. Okay. Looking pretty good, but we have borders that we need to take off. So let's see. All right. All right. So we actually want to do border top. Right, that looks good. That looks good. All right. Then we have our task name and create task. All right, so we can go ahead and take a look at the other one. Add a task, task name, nice. How does that look in comparison? Looks pretty good. All right. We have the onChange function for task name. Let's go ahead and make sure that our task name worked out. So we are going to come in here and we're going to say console.log name. And let's take a look. So we want to do add task, let's create task, and let's look at our console. Name is task. Perfect. All right. So we are going to go ahead and let's try to get our project ID, feature ID, and user story ID in, and let's create this route and then console log everything. And we will end there then, okay? So create task accordion comes from user story details accordion, which just has name, status, and description. So we need to find then what that is coming from, which I believe it is the feature modal. Yep, user story details. So it looks like we can pop in then our feature ID is equal to, let's just copy these actually. All right, and then we should be able to say user story ID is equal to story dot ID. Let's look up here. All right. Then let's go to here and let's add those. So we say feature ID. Let's start with project. Project ID, feature ID, user story ID. All right, let's go to our props. Project ID is a number, feature ID is a number, and user story ID is a number. And we're going to get rid of those because we don't need them. Then we can go ahead and pass those here. So feature ID, project ID, and user story ID. So now let's go to our create task and let's console log those props. Console.log, project ID, feature ID, all right, perfect. Okay, so now let's go ahead and console log. All right, so we have a lot here. So this 6 user story here is going to correspond to project ID 3, feature ID 1, user story ID 2. Let's go check that. So let's go to user stories. And we want to find the one that's called 6. Okay, so 6 is going to be ID 2 and then feature ID 1. Yep, so user story 2, feature ID 1. So then let's go to feature ID 1. And let's see if that corresponds to project ID 3. Okay, so feature ID 1 is feature K. That makes sense, project ID 3. Okay, perfect. So that means that these are matching up and we're having the right thing, okay? So now we need to go to the backend and we need to create our create task route. All right, and then we need to send our name, project ID, feature ID, and user story ID back there. So I'm going to go to create user story. I'm going to copy it. And we're going to change this to create task. This is going to be create task, not in all caps. I'm going to get rid of this. And then I'm going to make this instead task DTO, which is going to be of type task DTO. And then I'm going to console log my task DTO. Let's go ahead and create that DTO. I'm going to create it from the user story DTO because it's going to be similar. Project ID, feature ID, and then this will be user story ID, and no description. Okay, so I'm going to go to feature B, I'm going to go to user story 5, and then I'm going to add a task. I'm going to say task 1, feature user story 5, feature B. Create task, and my session has expired. So let's log back in and then give it another try. All right, so let's go to project A. Sure. Add a task. Task name. It's going to be task. It's going to be feature K, user story 6. Create task. Okay, so the name is task K6. That makes sense. Project ID 3, feature ID 1, user story ID 2, and I am user 41. All right, perfect. So we are making some headway on here, and we will go ahead and do some of the back-end work on our next one. See you in a little bit.